New generation TV, Kawahatun. Generation TV, Kawahatun.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. I just wanted to give you all an insight to what it's like on the streets of Mogadishu. So we've just left the complex where we're staying. The building on the left here is the Turkish embassy, and what you can see there is a very old minaret which was destroyed, but it's been rebuilt and it's more than 1,000 years old. It's one of the landmarks of Somalia and Mogadishu. And so as you're going to see now, we're coming down to the end of this road and you're going to see how tight security is. So there are obviously fences everywhere. There are these barriers we have to turn left and right around, and that's to stop any vehicles coming at any speed who might want to cause damage. As I said, one of the biggest things which has surprised me most about being in Somalia is I did expect the security situation to be very tight, but I never imagined that it would be like this. I mean, we've been to Mosul in Iraq while the fighting was continuing, and it wasn't anywhere near as intense as this. You can see there are these concrete barriers and guard towers and armed soldiers. You'll see, depending on which part of Mogadishu we go to now, but you're going to see African Union tanks and armoured vehicles and soldiers, and it's just amazing that the locals here are able to survive and society even function. But alhamdulillah, the people of Somalia are very, very resilient, and they do manage to get along. At the moment, the vehicle which we're in, it's bulletproof, so if I knock on the window you won't hear anything. Inside the cabin, it's actually very small. You can see my head is almost touching the roof because everything becomes smaller because of the armour which is in the vehicle to prevent an attack. Apparently these tuk-tuk vehicles are a recent addition to the streets of Mogadishu. They haven't been here that long, but it turns out that they're very suitable for the people here. People can buy one for $3,000 or $4,000, and then they can make a living from it, driving people around and taking them wherever they need to be. Once again, you see the high security and the concrete barriers and bollards. You can see a building there which is completely gutted, destroyed during the conflict. And we're actually coming to the part of Mogadishu now which is the most historic part of the city. Once we get to the end here, we're going to be by the ocean. There's a sea view, and this is where the very, very old original Mogadishu city was based. And as you can see, before we get there, there's a security barrier. Sometimes they check our ID, otherwise if our driver is known to them, they'll open the barriers. It's very frequent to be stopped by military and guards and asked for ID and who are you, what are you doing, and then they'll radio back and confirm things. You can see the beautiful ocean just there in the distance. You can see how the condition of many of these buildings in Mogadishu. The people have been through so much here. I think they're fed up of fighting. They've had enough. And all the feedback that we seem to be hearing from people on the ground is that the security situation here is improving. Even though for us coming from outside it seems like it's very bad, the locals are saying it's actually improving, and they're optimistic. They have high hopes for the future, inshallah. Once again, another security barrier. It's very difficult to go on any road for more than 2 minutes without having to come to some kind of security barrier like that. This used to be the Bank of Somalia. this is a beautiful building. What looks like it's one of the older buildings in Mogadishu. You can see that once it would have had some beautiful architecture. So this is not like the old town now. You can see the almost the Zanzibar style of the arches in the walls. Another old building completely gutted and destroyed. It's actually got trees growing inside it. Once again, you can see the ocean at the bottom of this road. The coastline in Somalia is stunningly beautiful. The remnants of an old mosque, an old building, almost Mughal, Ottoman style arches. Because what you've got to understand also is that Mogadishu it will have been big in terms of the port here and the shipping routes, the traditional shipping routes, and you will have had people from the Indian subcontinent sailing by, settling here, trading here, people from the Arabian Peninsula, the Omanis, the Yemenis. These are all influences. You will have had people from different parts of the East African coast, from Zanzibar, from Mombasa, and the trade routes were strong. Just through there you can see the port of Mogadishu and some huge container ships. Beautiful Mogadishu. In the same way that this city has been destroyed and gutted, inshallah, with a bit of motivation and will and coming together of people, it can be made just as it was, if not even better, inshallah. Once again, you see these security barriers, and now there's a large security presence. Just to give you an idea as well, this is the back of our car. We've actually got our own armed guards, not these two here. Look out of the window, you can see. So once again, more security barriers.
You see that, yeah? That's how you don't do a distribution. That's kind of nonsense. Who's doing that?
Old buildings again. The potential that this country has is amazing. Is amazing. Please keep your brothers and sisters in Somalia in your prayers. We've met some beautiful people. Many people have been displaced. You know, even if it's not from the war and the conflict, then they've had droughts, they've had famine. Many people have had to move hundreds and hundreds of miles because the local river had dried up, or because all of their animals, their sheep and their goats, started dying because of the lack of food. And many people tend to head to the cities like Mogadishu, like Kismayo, and then once they're here, how do you survive in a place like this with no money? It's a very difficult life for lots of people here. Once again, you've got these security barriers which you have to weave in and out of, left and right. Here we have a security checkpoint coming up. You can see the officer is questioning somebody. And so they take security very seriously here, because they've seen too much death, they've seen too much destruction, and it's gotten to the point where they're fed up, they don't want any more, and unfortunately this is the only way they can live, to make sure that the security is so tight. There you go, signs of economy there, containers being carried on trucks, a new petrol station which has been built there. The Turks have invested heavily in Mogadishu, so they've helped with the infrastructure, they've built a hospital, they've built a new airport in Mogadishu, and the affinity between the Turks and the local Somalians is one which is very, very close. And the people of Somalia, they really appreciate the investment and the support which the Turkish government has brought. Speaking of the Turkish government, there's the port, Mogadishu port. We've just driven past once again. That's a project which has been heavily invested in by the Turks. The only international airline which flies here is Turkish Airlines. But what you're seeing now, this is central Mogadishu. This is the middle of Mogadishu. This is how people have to live. This is their capital city. Imagine having this kind of security to go through every single day. It's a very difficult life for people.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello. 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 Cap. هذا الجزيرة كاكاو دكمية. ها waa garana dhib male markaa jikboonta ka dhaafnay goor maris
just yesterday somebody was telling us, they said in the West you choose a hotel based on the star rating, so is it 3-star, 4-star, 5-star? They said here in Somalia we select a hotel based on the security that they have. How many guards do they have? How far is the main entrance away from the main building? And it's such a shame. So alaikum salam to everybody who's conveying their salams. Somebody asked there, why are there so much security barriers? It's because for the last, well, for as long as most people here can remember, there's been conflict in Somalia and they've had lots of political problems. I think what you can see on the road here is actually just the remnants of the train line which used to be in Mogadishu. You see the lines there? So at one point this city will have had functioning trains. It will have had a bustling port, the economy would have been growing, and unfortunately conflict has come and destroyed everything. But people, as I said, they're still optimistic. People are still going to school, people are still going to college and university. They want to become qualified and they want to contribute to this beautiful country and bring out its potential. Yesterday I went to a book fair. Now, where I come from in the UK, if you put a book fair on, it's going to usually attract older people who are interested in reading and interested in books. Well, the book fair here in Mogadishu was cram-packed full with young people who were going, buying books, and just mashallah, you know, just to see so many young people taking an interest in education, in learning about history, in learning about politics, in learning about all these things, and so that really is where the hope is, inshallah, in the younger generation. You know, many people say that youngsters are the future. In Somalia, they're not. They're the present and the future. And just today, we visited an orphanage with lots of orphan children there. 450 orphan children, and a similar amount of children from poor backgrounds, and they were being offered free education, and so they understand the importance of education. Nobody's forcing them to be there. They could just sit at home, or they could go out and sell things, but they choose to be there. They choose to learn. They have this passion and this desire to learn knowledge. As you can see now, we're coming up to some armoured vehicles. There are no markings on these vehicles, but I assume, I may be wrong, but I'm assuming they're African Union vehicles. And so we're getting closer now So you can see the huge convoy of vehicles going past with the turrets at the top. They have bulletproof glass everywhere as well. We're actually driving next to them normally on the streets of Mogadishu. It is a very strange feeling to be driving in the middle of we're in the middle of a convoy of these armoured vehicles now. So we have them in front of us and we have them behind us. There are our own armed guards on the back of the truck there, you can see. Now for us coming from where we come from, this feels very strange and very out of place, but for the locals here this is normal. They've been living like this for years. This really is downtown Mogadishu now. You can see the colourful shop fronts, all the different businesses who manage somehow to survive in the middle of all of this. That's a miracle in itself, if you ask me. So I just want to thank everybody as well who supported the work what we're doing here, because it is difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy to access a place like this, and you know, we're fortunate. We've got amazing contacts on the ground here who facilitated everything for us. More armoured vehicles. We're gonna, I think, push into the queue in between the armoured vehicles now, and you can see there are more barriers. So here we have the door opened and things are checked. This vehicle in front is part of our convoy, and so they're probably being questioned now and asked for ID, and they should produce the ID and tell the guard that we are with them as well, and that should be enough. If not, then he might need to check our car as well. Yeah, he's told us he needs to check our car. He's going to see the ID. Assalamu alaikum. Check the ID. We're good to go. Bismillah. So you see the you see there on that tanker, it says AU. That stands for African Union, and so they have a mission here in Somalia, a so-called peacekeeping mission. And so there are lots of different military troops here from different African countries who are based here in Somalia. We've just passed through security and now we're just waiting for the traffic to open up, and then we're going to go through the next lot of security barriers. So as you can probably see by now, and are probably already thinking, the security here is something else. I've not witnessed anything like it. You know, I've been to places like Yemen, like Iraq. I've been to some pretty intense places and intense situations in my time, but I've never witnessed anything on this level before. But as I said, from a positive perspective, people, the locals, are saying that the situation is actually improving. So the situation as it is now is much better than it's been in the recent past. Alhamdulillah. So let's pray and let's hope that these people have even more peace and even more security on their streets, in their cities, in their country in general. Some advertisements of local businesses. I'm not charging them for this service, but I just want you to see what the average Somalian will see on their daily commute. We're actually on our way now to meet one of the ministers, and so it's expected the area, the part of Mogadishu where we go, is going to be under even more heavy security, with more checkpoints than what you're actually seeing now. This is just downtown Mogadishu. Trucks are not allowed. There you go, see that sign? And these dark green barriers, what you can see there, they're actually, it's a very efficient way of making barriers. They're kind of like meshed metal fence frames with a sack in there, and then they fill them with sand. So we're still waiting to get through this security barrier. Even though we've been checked and we've been passed, we still have to wait for the rest of these cars to come through before we can access that long road over there. Fortunately, by the looks of it, if you're on a motorcycle or if you're pushing a wheelbarrow, you'll be able to get through quicker than a vehicle. Now what's happening is this security officer just told our front car to turn a left and go down there.
El gas.
So we're being allowed to go this way now. We haven't been diverted, and so we're heading onto this long street. We've just seen a truck with an RPG on top of it. So these are the streets of Mogadishu. Watch out for the sheep. And so it's a daily struggle for people. Imagine if you just had to commute from one part of the city to the next, how long that daily commute would take, and all of the checks and being stopped, and you know, we have official permission from the government officials here, and so I don't think anybody's going to get through the city more easy than what we're doing now. So even this tour is one which has been pre-arranged and pre-authorized, and so we've got all the permissions needed, and even we're taking so long to get from one side of the city to the next. But as you can see, there's what looks like a relatively new building there, once again with the hallmark security.